I was a Marine serving on active duty when the planes hit the towers on 9/11. I was a combat engineer serving as a platoon commander in a unit in Southern California. And the events of that day would come to define the rest of my 8 years on active duty, and indeed, my life. A couple years later, when my unit moved across the border from Kuwait into Iraq, we were filled with purpose and pride. We were united in a community like no other, brothers and sisters, brought together by shared purpose and fulfilled by the impact that we truly believed we would have. We accomplished our small piece of the mission in a corner of Iraq that time and sandstorms have now long erased. And I redeployed home and to my next duty station at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, where I stayed for the remaining 4 years that I would serve on active duty. And on my last day on active duty, I took off my uniform for the last time, I folded it up, I put it on a shelf, and I felt an emptiness that swallowed me whole. I didn't have any wounds from my time in Iraq, visible or invisible. I didn't need anything from the VA or from the multitude of generous, amazing organizations that stand ready to help veterans in their transition. On the contrary, it was the feeling of being needed that I missed the most. I felt as though I had taken my purpose off when I took off my uniform. Now, I'm not alone in that feeling. To give you some idea of scale, there are more than 250,000 men and women leaving active duty every year. That's the number of veterans that we're creating on an annual basis. And more than 40% of them report feeling a lack of purpose when they transition. That's a lot of potential to leave sitting on a shelf. Josue Guerrero is one of those veterans. He's a Marine who immigrated to the United States from Mexico when he was a child. Having fled from the cartels, he landed in a country where, as he says, my clothes were wrong, my food was wrong, my skin color was wrong. Inside my house, we were Mexican, but inside my head, all I could hear was, be more American. Josue found community in the Marine Corps, where, for better or worse, everyone is just green. But when Josue transitioned, he felt the same emptiness that I felt when I left the Marine Corps. Unfortunately, Josue's emptiness led him to alcoholism and a suicide attempt, all because he no longer felt useful. It pains me to think about veterans like Josue languishing in communities across this country because they, individuals with a tremendous wealth of life experience and passion, can't find their next mission. All the while, our communities fall farther and farther behind, engulfed by violence and systemic crime. And the divide that exists in our country grows deeper and wider by the day. In 2015, Josue found the mission continues, and he finally felt powerful again. He was surrounded by people that shared his passion for service, and he was pointed in the direction of greatest impact, which for him at the time was the community of Watts in LA. He came together with men and women who understood what it felt like to continue to serve, veterans and community members. He's still serving tirelessly today, and you'll be happy to know that Josue's story is a very good news story. He came to us to gain the skills that he needed in order to serve in LA. We pointed him in the right direction, and he took it from there. For 12 years now, the Mission Continues has been working to connect veterans like Josue with the communities in the areas that need them the most. And it's happening now in almost 80 communities across the country and with tens of thousands of veterans. Last year, several hundred of us joined Josue back in Watts for a week of intense service in a program that we call our mass deployment. For one full week, we recapture all the best parts of a military deployment. The intense connectedness, the teamwork, the camaraderie, the hyper-focus on a mission and a purpose. So for one full week, we spent time refurbishing city blocks, redoing teacher lounges, building outdoor classrooms and sensory gardens, rebuilding playgrounds and basketball courts. In an incredible show of positive force that brought community members and veterans together to generate visible impact. We as veterans are community members. We come from communities, and it is to those communities that we will return. But we do return changed. We come home with the feeling that you have when you've just done something really hard. We look around, combating systemic violence and poverty in Watts That's hard. As Greg said earlier, and as everyone in this room knows all too well, solving some of our toughest community challenges is hard. Veterans are out there looking for their next mission, and it's the hard that makes it so great. So if we're taking the long view, we'll open our aperture on what we consider to be a veteran issue. We are more than our backgrounds in national security, in our intersection with the VA and mental health care. We are larger than the one-dimensional view that many Americans have of us. We are passionate advocates for community. We are advocates for national parks, for gun safety, for equality, diversity. We are parents, teachers, coaches, members of the LGBTQ community, and immigrants. And above all, we have proven that we are extremely committed to the success of this country, and that does not stop when we take our uniforms off. We continue to be fulfilled by that sense of purpose. And we're looking for our next hard thing that we can tackle. So if you have a challenge in your community, if you're looking for someone to run for school board, coach the Bad News Bears Little League team back to glory, or combat systemic blight and poverty in West Baltimore, if you're taking the long view, you'll call a veteran. We're out there looking for our next mission, and the harder and the grittier it is,